Welcome elected members, staff, guests and members of the public to the ordinary council meeting of the 12th February 2025. I declare the meeting opened at 5:32. The City of Busselton acknowledges the Wardani and Bibbulmun people as the traditional custodians of this region and pays their respect to past elders and present. This meeting is being audio recorded for minute-taking purposes and also being live streamed on the City of Busselton YouTube channel. The prayer this evening will be read by Reverend Stephen van Schalkwijk from Cornerstone Church. I'll get it one day. Stephen, if you'd like to come forward, thank you. I'll just press the, that's it, it's all right, you're on the, oh no.
Is that better? There
yeah,
we go.
That's fine.
Thank you for the privilege. Shall we pray? Gracious God, we call to live in healthy community, which finds ways to support people and to work wisely for our fauna, our flora, the rich blessings of our land, our waterways and our sky. And so this evening we pray for our council, we pray for those in positions of authority, for our Mayor, Mr. Cronin, our Deputy Mayor, Councillor Ryan, for each council member, for the executive team, for the administration and support staff, and the volunteers that make the city a healthy, welcoming, and prosperous place. Inspire among us a vision of this community as it might be, where concern for one another may drive out discontent, strife, anxiety, and fear. Help this council as it works together toward the strategic interests of sport and recreation, of rivers and waterways, of responsible development and housing, of our airport services, for community safety and communication and engagement. Bless this beautiful city through the energy and the efforts of this council meeting this evening. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Oh, thank you, Reverend. In attendance this evening, we have Councillor Anne Ryan, Councillor Jodie Lee, Councillor Val Caig, Councillor Andrew McNeish, Councillor Michaela Love, Councillor Kate Cox, Councillor Jared Kennedy, and online we have Councillor Richard Beecroft. Can you hear us, Councillor Beecroft? Thank you. And myself, Mayor Phil Cronin. I have no apologies, no approved leaves of absence or application. Just an announcement, I just want to say that it was great to see so many people get involved in the community event of the Busselton Jetty Swim. I believe we had 5,800 people down this year. A big shout out to Kate Rafferty and the committee, all the volunteers. There were many volunteers down there, so a big shout out to all of them. This event saw about 15,000 people coming into the community, and I'm led to believe about $5 to $6 million to the local businesses. So it was a truly wonderful event that went really well. Weather was a bit against us, but otherwise, yeah, just wanted to thank everyone involved. I haven't received no disclosures of interest. Is there any disclosures? I'll now move on to question time of the public. We have one question that was taken on notice in January 25, the January 2025 meeting. We only have one meeting in January. Sponsor which is now on the screen. And it's been recorded in the minutes as such. We now move on to question time for public. I now move on to the question time where members of the public have an opportunity to ask questions of the council about matters relevant to the city. I'll take the opportunity to remind everyone that question time is conducted according to the council meetings, information sessions and decision-making process policy and the city's standing orders. In particular, public question time is not an opportunity to make statements or to enter into discussion or debate on the question or the response provided. Questions will be limited to 3 per person to assure that members of the public wishing to ask questions have the opportunity to do so within the allocated time and respect must be shown to councillors, employees and other members of the public. Thank you for those who've registered in advance. Tonight I've received 3 registrations, and I will start with Mr. Vincenzo Salvatore Granari. Did I get that right?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Thank you. I'll take that. If you'd like to come forward and ask your question. Oh, sorry, just to the chair. That's all right. Felt like a judge there for a moment.
My apologies, I mean.
Thank you, Vincent.
My question is as follows. Given that for many years now, the local residents have complained to the City of Busselton about the constantly degraded state of the unsealed road, posing unacceptable high risk to the safety of all road users, and seeking urgent appropriate remedial action, we are extremely grateful that Councillor Val Caig and Deputy Mayor Anne Ryan have recently driven on the road, and Councillor Ryan provided a critical assessment of the condition to the council officers and councillors on the 4th of February. Can you please advise what action is proposed to be undertaken to rectify the issue and seal the road, and the proposed timetable for such action? The road in question is the unsealed Metricup-Yelverton Road. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. The Council's asset management policy requires decisions to implement new assets, major upgrades or accepted donated assets, and must be informed by whole-of-life costs. Through this policy, the City demonstrates its commitment to finding financially sound decisions based on a comprehensive cost analysis, not just initial expenses. As advised in correspondence between yourself and officers, the City recently undertook a whole life of cost review, and given the significant capital investment to upgrade the road to a sealed standard, estimated to be in the order of $3 million, maintenance costs for the existing unsealed road would need to rise significantly for construction of a sealed road to provide better economic outcome. Estimated annualised whole-of-life cost of a sealed road is approximately twice that of an existing unsealed road. Whole-of-life costs are the total costs of operating and maintaining the road through the entire life cycle. These costs include all capital construction, maintenance, rehabilitation or renewal costs and depreciation. In addition to considering whole-of-life costs, the City has considered the proposed capital investment impact on management of other City road infrastructure. The City has, through its long-term financial plan, put in place funding to address both the backlog of existing road and forecast road renewal needs over the 10-year planning period. The funding required would further delay addressing the sealed road renewal backlog, which in turn can increase the cost of renewal projects. There is currently no allocation to construct and seal Metricup-Yelverton Road within the existing budget or the long-term financial plan. Taking into account the whole-of-life cost, this view has not changed from previous correspondence that has been provided to residents in the area.
Did you read that by yourself?
Thank you. That is the answer. I have spoken to other people about this scenario as well. That's the situation. We have a large number of roads that are unsealed, and we do have many requests, but at this stage, that is our answer, I'm afraid.
Mayor, can I ask a question, please?
And there will be other representation here this evening. The condition of the road is extremely poor, and it is so on a consistent basis. It is hard to believe that we have to put up with the condition of the road being so poorly. And in that regard, Deputy Mayor Anne Wright, kindly drove on the road and sort of observed firsthand exactly what that condition was, and it was atrocious. And it gets that way very, very quickly on a consistent basis. So it's hard to fathom that, given the condition of that road and how quickly it deteriorates.
Thank you. Look, I don't wish to interrupt. This is questions of council. That I will say that I personally live on an unsealed road. You have the opportunity, if the road gets bad, to lodge it with the city, which is the first one. I also did speak to Mr. Paul I think on Tuesday. I said I would come down and visit and see the road myself, but he had said it has just been regraded. And I was aware that there was an accident on the Busselton Highway a couple of weeks ago, which led to all traffic more or less being diverted down your road. But I am aware of the petition that will be coming in. But you're welcome to present to council, but today is just question time, I'm sorry. So thank you very much for coming in. Thank you very much, thank you. Cheers.
Could I ask
Next
a question, please?
No, council, I'm not having questions. So, Mr. David Bostock, this is questions to the council, question to the council, thank you. Well, you're not on the list yet, so. Thank you, Mr. David Bostock. If you just say your name and where you're from, please, for the record. Sorry, the microphone's gone off again. Thank you.
I live at 137 Metric Up Yelverton Road, which is the subject of my questions tonight. And thank you for the opportunity. My question is, can you please clarify the maintenance costs and the capital works costs for each of the last 2 financial years and those costs for the current financial year?
Thank you. I'll direct that question to the CEO.
Thanks for your question, Mr. Bostock. We've got some information here that I hope will help with the question. So the maintenance cost for the entire length of the 4.5 kilometres of the Metric Up Yelverton Road for the financial year 23-24 was $37,404, and in 22-23 was $29,669. The 3-year average maintenance cost per kilometre for Metric Up Yelverton Road was approximately $8,400, with the network average approximately $5,900. If considering upgrade priority based on maintenance rates alone, there are 13 roads, or around 16.2 kilometres, which would take priority over Metric Up Yelverton Road. Capital upgrade costs of these roads could be in the order of $16 million, or the city's total road renewal funding allocated from rates for 3 financial years. The total capital reshedding expenditure in 23-24 was $118,634, or approximately $39,500 per kilometre.
Thank you.
You have a second question?
I do. Relating to the same road, of course. Given the exponential growth in traffic volume since 2018, each of the counts in 2018, 2021 and 24-25, which I annualised at a vehicle per day rate of 145, which includes a low, a high and a shoulder period, has been respectively increases of 73%, 72% and 63% count on count, approximately 3 years apart, those counts. Is a strategic plan in place for when the count reaches the previously expressed requirement of 150 vehicles per day, projected to be within the next year, for sealing to be considered? And will a report be presented to council setting out future options?
Thank you. I'll direct this again to the CEO, if I may.
And thanks again. Really appreciate you sending these in early too for us to gather the information to give you the answer on the evening. So as provided in the following previous email and phone correspondence with officers, the city has calculated the average annual vehicles per day at approximately 133, using 4 months of peak period and 8 months of off-peak. The city has recently reviewed traffic growth in the district, and 3% is the accepted average resulting from this work for use in traffic studies. Traffic growth between 2001 and 2024 on Metric Up Yelverton Road is in the order of 3.5%, and it is therefore not considered to be a higher in priority than other roads on the existing network. 150 vehicles per day is the warrant that the city uses to undertake a review of the whole of life costs and determine the cost benefit of a potential road upgrade. The city uses whole of life costs to ensure services can be provided to the community economically for the long term, and it's widely accepted and documented that it is not until vehicles per day increase above 250 and often 500 vehicles per day that there is a strong probability that the economic benefit in upgrading a road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. It's, yeah, as I said, you're... Sure.
Respond by email with that one.
Sure. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Did you have another question?
I did lodge another question.
Oh, sorry. I didn't have that written down. That was all. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. May I ask?
Yeah, you may ask. Absolutely.
So it's relating to safety, essentially. Given the road surface degrades rapidly after maintenance, grading, watering and rolling, what is the duty of care for the council to provide and maintain safe roads for all users, including those not used to corrugated or pothole surfaces? Such as happened on Sunday the February 2nd between approximately 10 a.m. and 12 noon, when main roads counting showed approximately 600 vehicles were diverted to Metric Up Yelverton Road due to an accident.
I think in relation to your question, the answer is really around that we have an obligation across all of our road network, and we have to try and be adaptive when something like a road crash happens and they need a road to be able to move vehicles around a tragic accident or something along those lines. So the liability is across all roads, and we have to treat them all evenly. If there are issues or things that have been reported to us, we will attempt to get to that as quick as possible.
Okay.
Thank you. Next question is from Mr. Thank you. From Mr. Keith Sims.
Good evening, Mayor, councillors and staff. The first question is about saltwater, and simply is, what is the current expected completion and opening dates?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Sims.
Keith Sims, Busselton, sorry.
The contractor's most recent construction program report has an estimated practical completion date for the June 2025. Officers are closely monitoring the progress with the opening planned in later 2025.
In when in 25?
2025, yeah.
No, I thought you said
Sorry, can
something
you talk to the microphone?
2025.
Sorry. Yeah, so the completion date is, we've been told, is June 2025 and opening later in 2025.
Approximately later when? At the end of the year or?
At the end of the year, I'd assume.
Okay,
yeah.
that's fine.
Towards the end of the year, I mean, yeah.
The second question is to do with short-term rental accommodation. Tonight's agenda item 10.2, review of holiday homes. Can you please advise from the Have Your Say on this matter what community suggestions have been adopted by the officers in their recommendation to all the councillors?
Thank you. With regards to the item 10.2, that is to rescind the current council policy on the regulations of holiday homes due to the current policy being redundant as a result of the introduction of the statewide registration scheme. The recent Your Say consultation does not relate to this item. The recent consultation was on the revised local planning policy and associated amendment to the local planning scheme related to short-term rental accommodation. The revised policy will be a future agenda item, and at this time the outcome of the consultation will be available together with any recommended modifications to the policy as a result of this consultation.
So my mistake about the 10.2, I accept that. So when are you thinking of that information becoming available?
Mr. CEO, I'll do it then.
Once the report's complete, the officers are compiling that together, so it'll be at a future, it'll be in the near future, at a future
Near
council meeting.
future.
Near future council meeting.
Okay,
Thank you.
I didn't put this question in, but just listening to the gentleman talk about their road, is it true, isn't it correct, that a government grant of $1.97 million that was for roads and infrastructure was allocated to the saltwater, or BPAC as it was then?
Mr. CEO?
No, that particular funding, if it's the LRCIP funding, has a range of uses that it can be used for, including which roads can be used as well, and community buildings and such. So I don't have the specifics of all the things that qualifies for that available funding, but it's not just for roads.
Okay.
So that was a choice. That was a choice that was made by the council when they set their budget.
I didn't say just roads. The grant actually says roads and infrastructure. I have a copy of it.
So clearly that building down there is infrastructure. And it meets the requirements. It's been acquitted, that grant, back to the federal government. So it's clearly the right kind of approach for that funding for the building.
So the 1.97 million has gone, did you say, back to the government? No, you didn't, sorry.
What was the question?
Okay, I'm fine.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more questions from the public? Mr. Evell, if you'd like to come forward. Flick on the microphone. Oops.
Yeah, Don Evell from Geograph. I recently flew back from Sydney and I'd like to ask a question about the state of our arrival lounge. I'll put these in points and not questions, but I'll ask a question at the end. There's only one small water dispenser for the entire place. Why is there no signage directing people to the toilet facilities? And as the Tourist Bureau receives funding from us to promote this place as a tourist destination, why is there only one small rack of leaflets and maps of the area? Should we not have a welcoming face there to answer questions and direct people to the various points of interest? There is no transport from the airport. The taxi service is totally unreliable. It doesn't attend on the weekends, and there's up to a 3-hour wait in some instances. If you can keep throwing ratepayers' money at Jetscar to the tune of $100,000 per month and pay WA Tourism for $187,000...
Can you get to your
Wouldn't it
question,
be-
please, Mr. Evell?
Beg your pardon?
Can you please get to your question? Sorry, this
I
is
can't ask
question
a
time.
question until you know what the points I'm raising, can I?
Well,
I'm raising points and then I'll ask the question. Is that fair? Thank
well,
you.
if you can, as I said at the start of this meeting,
And WA Tourism
you
for
can please-
$187,000
Mr. Evell,
would be
please,
prudent
please.
to have transport.
Mr. Evell, I'm going to ask you to stop speaking now. Thank you.
No, I will not.
Mr. Evell,
Why is there no outside cover for people that take shelter under weather conditions? My question is, what is the council going to do about these things?
Mr. Evell, thanks for you had a couple of other questions in there, so I'm not sure if that's what you wanted answered or
Sorry,
that
I
was-
can't hear you.
You had a couple of other questions in that preamble. I'm not sure if they're what you need answered as well, but what is the council going to do about it? Council obviously has some decisions moving forward. They're all great points which have all been captured also in a business case that's been submitted to the state government. The state government has that business case. A lot of that could be addressed with a far better facility, which we've been lobbying for many, many years. Had the council had the opportunity to build the new terminal that was planned originally, a lot of those items would have been addressed. So to be fair, the costs involved in creating all of those things in an appropriate manner would be very, very expensive for ratepayers. So the challenge for us is to make sure that we've got that facility moving forward to be able to provide all those facilities. And it's the kind of thing that the council has talked about quite often around providing a good service for visitors coming into the city of Busselton. Absolutely, they're very good points.
Thank you for answering that question.
Thank you. I'd just like to remind the gallery this is question time, so I appreciate that some of them may need a little bit of intro, but again, I've said this, you have the opportunity to write in so we have a better understanding. You can write to councillors at any point. You can come and present to others, but this is part of the meeting where it is called question time. I did highlight at the start, so I hope that the gallery can respect that of the chamber. Thank you. Mariah. Sure. So many questions. With a limit to 3. Thank you.
It's Mariah Guria, and I live in Busselton or Chapman Hill. Very light question in comparison to everything else tonight. Anyway, I just wanted to check the last meeting that we had on the Monday the 3rd of February. We had the Haps family ask about the ancillary dwelling and if the city will keep the 10-metre maximum distance between the ancillary dwelling and the main residence. And at the night, we were told that that would be removed and it wasn't in the current draft for the new Scheme 22. So my question in regards to that is, I have looked at the draft copy in the City of Busselton website, and on page 83, that requirement is still listed there. So I'm just wondering, is that buffer going to be removed, or that maximum distance removed or
Thank you.
remained?
I'll direct the question to Mr. Barber.
Through Mr Mayor, yes, it was in the draft that went to council previously. I have clarified that with Mr Happ, and we are looking at removing the prescription around the 10 metres and put in some other criteria around it. So
Right.
the draft that will come back to council will be amended.
Thank you. Just a couple more questions on the same topic. I've also noticed that the current scheme that we have has several different zones that aren't in the new scheme, a couple of them being conservation, bushland protection. Just wondering what that's going to be rezoned to and who makes the decision of those zone changes.
I'll refer that back to Director Barber.
Through Mr Mayor. I can't tell you what they'll be zoned to. So there's standard zones that are now within the state framework. So a simple example is the viticulture tourism zone. We're no longer allowed to have it. We have to revert that to a rural zone. So there are rural zones and some other more sort of environmental protection type of zones. So we have to align our current scheme zones to the state framework, and we've translated that. But in terms of an individual property of what is it going to, you'd have to look at the scheme map to have a look at that.
Thank you. And I think the last one I had was, that you've answered that question with this question, so it's good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mariah. Appreciate it.
I've learnt 3 minutes.
Are there any other questions, public? Michelle, would you like to come forward? Sorry, if you can just switch the microphone on. It keeps going off. I don't know why, but...
Michelle Shackleton, a baby. I can hear myself now. Just getting back to Mr Ebbels' questions, we have paid a great deal of money to Jetstar to get them up and racing, and I believe we do lose money if they don't fill their planes. I know that was certainly the situation when it first started and we were doing flights only to Melbourne. Recently there was a discussion on Facebook regarding Jetstar. Someone was complaining about being stranded, and all of a sudden all these other stories started coming out of being stranded, their holidays being cancelled altogether because there was no flight and it's been cancelled, whatever. And I have to say I was really very, very surprised at how many people had negative stories about Jetstar to tell, and the effects on holidays and visiting other people and trying to reach connecting flights and so forth. 2 questions. First of all, what is the repercussion for Jetstar? few questions. What's the repercussion to them? Do we get any financial benefit? And how do you gather this information? Is there any way of gathering this information by the city to feed back or monitor how they're going, please?
Mr. CEO.
Yeah, through the chair. Thanks for the question, Ms Shackleton. The city's aware of some of those posts that unveiled a lot of those concerns and questions that we had about the airport. And obviously we'd prefer to not have those sorts of things happen as a result of our tourists coming into the city and general travellers coming to and from. What's the repercussions? It's probably a reputational matter for Jetstar, but it does flow down to ourselves as well. We'd like to have as few issues as possible. The challenges you do have is that if a plane breaks down, and we also have those other challenges of not having regular state-funded transport to move people around, and we also have some challenges around private transport, even with taxis and the like, lack of Ubers and those sorts of things. So, we certainly sympathise with what people have experienced. We look into those and also discuss with Jetstar about how we can improve those matters moving forward.
So you get reports when that happens, when that occurs?
And certainly we ask questions about, what could have been done better. Is there some issues that might have contributed towards it that we could improve? So certainly looking at minimising that as much as possible.
And where we're paying them to maintain the service in relation, in concert with the state, do we get a benefit back when they don't provide that service?
Yeah, look, I suppose, and I know we've had these sorts of questions previously, but unfortunately, because of the commercial arrangement we do have with Jetstar, I can't actually.
Not asking about the amount, just a yes or no.
No, I can't answer that question.
That's odd. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to ask a question? Therefore, I move on to item 6.1, petitions, which we have none of. No deputations. So move on to item 8.1, that the minutes of ordinary council meeting held on the 11th of December 2024 be confirmed as true and a correct record. I believe we have an amendment from Councillor McNeish. So firstly, I'll have a mover for the officer recommendation. Do I have a mover that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 11th of December be confirmed as true and correct record? Moved Councillor Kennedy. Seconded Councillor Cox. Is there any opposition? There is opposition. Therefore, I'll put... Do you wish to put the motion?
Just as written.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cox, do you wish to speak?
I'll reserve my right.
Okay, thank you. Any opposition? Councillor McNeish.
I'll speak against because there are two matters that need to be noted. I'm not against the confirmation of the minutes because 98% of them are fine. But there's just two matters, one very small, that some reasons need to be either added, which I'm not proposing, or noted that there are no reasons, or have been no reasons minuted, which is a very simple notation. It just reflects the reality of voting, of the decision being against the officer's recommendation of the month before. The other matter is another... well, I've used the word notation in there somewhere, but it's a note to be added to the minutes that is seemingly a small matter, but is very important because when we take minutes, when minutes are taken, shouldn't use the word we, when minutes are taken, and are the responsibility of the CEO, for my mind, they are what happens on the night. Now, there is an ability at public question time to have summary of the question and a summary of the answer in the minutes. But it's a summary of what happened on the night, not what might have been, could have been, or should have been. The minutes are related to what happens on the night, or, at the meeting. So one of the answers to the question raises new matters that I acknowledge with the CEO makes it a better answer. But there's some new information, new words introduced into that answer, into the minutes, that did not happen on the night. So my point really is seemingly small, but is important that minutes can only be recorded for what happens on the night, and therefore a summary of the minutes, the summary of the question and the answer, must only be drawn from what happens on the night. Different in Parliament, because Hansard records every word, and that's published or discoverable because there is privilege in the Parliament. There is very, very limited privilege in a local government council chamber, and that's why the CEO needs the ability to summarise in case for minutes to be published, the local government might be liable to be sued for defamation. So that's why that protection, I believe, is allowing the minutes, the public answer and question to be summarised. But other than that, if there's nothing of defamatory concern, the summary of question and answer needs to come solely from what transpired on the night. And that's all I'm proposing, that notation be made to these minutes before they're then adopted or confirmed. Thank you.
So you didn't amend anything?
Oh, you want me to move my amendment? My amendment
I'll
is
let you.
on the, thank you, sir, is on the screen. The 2 points I talked about are point A and point B. I'll just leave people to read that.
If I may, Mr. CEO, just for clarification, this on the point B, what does the Act cover?
As Councillor McNish outlined, the regulation requires a summary of the question and a summary of the answer.
So that's not verbatim?
It's not verbatim. No, that's not what the reg says. So I think reading this, it looks like Councillor McNish is your amendment is looking at putting the response in verbatim, which I suppose on reflection may not meet the regulation. Councillor McNish.
Yes, it's an interesting discussion.
I won't go into debate, but you can respond to that
Yes, thank
question.
you.
Thank you.
You know, this is not a discussion that most people find interesting, I admit. Pearson finds
Is there a question? Is there a question of the CEO's statement, please?
Yes. I contend that the best form of a summary can be the verbatim itself. The Act doesn't
Okay, so that's
force you to
opinion.
summarise,
That's opinion.
But wherever there is conjecture, then surely the actual verbatim rules out any questions.
Thank you. I'll need a seconder then for these amendments. If it's okay, I might split them to make it easier so we can vote on. Sure. So firstly, do I have a seconder for Amendment A? Thank you, Councillor. Is there any opposition? There is opposition. Okay, let me just... it was, seconder was Councillor Ryan, and opposition. So,
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question? I'm not sure if I'm allowed.
Ask a question.
But is there any concern in those that response being verbatim there? This question,
well,
I guess,
we're
would be...
talking about item A at the moment. So, sorry, where is it? Yeah, is that, so you're asking, is that a question of A as well?
No, just for question B.
Okay, well, maybe we can come back to that if that's all right.
Yep, that'll be
Thank
fine.
you, thank you. If you'd like to speak to your point A, then
Without labouring the point, I think it's just important to note that there were no reasons given. I mean, you can read the Act, the regs, two different ways, like a lot of legislation, but erring on the safety side, no reasons were given. Okay, that's fine. And the minutes, when confirmed, just simply need to note that. Previously, on the same matter, reasons were given, but this time they weren't. Okay, that's it.
Councillor Ryan?
Can I ask a question, please? So it's after the November bracket, for the matter could be minute.
Or could be minuted.
I did say it was a small matter. Minuted.
Yeah. Matter. Yeah. On the last line.
Second last line.
Oh, minuted.
It should be minuted.
Sorry, yes.
Otherwise it's minute. And then we have a problem.
Councillor Ryan, do you wish to speak?
I'd just like to say that I think it's self-explanatory that there was reasons missing, and we're told time and again that we have to have our reasons if we're voting against the officer's recommendation, and therefore I think it's smart to be adding this notation.
Mr CEO, may I again clarify for this, have you made a mistake? Were these wrong? Do we need to, what does the Act say? What does the standing order of the Act say?
So this is probably where, if Councillor Minish is happy for us to share, obviously there's been some discussions with governance staff and Councillor McNish around, if you recall the history of this particular item, it came through via an urgent item of business, which doesn't require a councillor report, which therefore doesn't have a recommendation that is significantly different that the council ended up adopting. It's the general view of the administration that no reasons are required because of that situation. Okay. Even looking at the resolution of what the council was on that urgent item of business, it is not significantly different from the officer recommendation if that was the one that was in play. But the one that was in play was the one that was put forward through the late item.
Okay, thank you.
Which didn't have an officer report or recommendation.
Thank you. Speaker against? No speaker against. Speaker for? Therefore, I put yes, sorry, yes, you have the right to rebuttal. But there's no speaker against, there's no rebuttal.
No speaker against?
No, there wasn't.
Point of clarification then.
Sure.
The CEO noted there was no significant difference, I think, between the final decision and the officer recommendation. The original officer recommendation was a 3-point recommendation. The final decision was 9 points. So I contend there was quite a difference.
Sorry, you may respond to that.
Sorry, if I could, Councillor McNish, that was if I said if that one was in play, but the view was that there was no officer recommendation in what was presented to council in December. But I understand that you have a difference of opinion, but that's where we landed.
Question of clarification. So, sorry about all this. Is it a question to the CEO? Do I take it then that the administration believe that it's the item that we're talking about, whereas I believe it's the matter, and the reg is silent on that issue? Because the matter is salt water, and there was clearly an officer recommendation related to that of 3 points. The decision was a 9-point decision in the item, but the item you're referring to is simply the revocation.
Yeah, I think through the chair, what that clearly explains is that we have a difference of opinion of where that's at. So it'd be up to the council to decide tonight where they want to go with it.
Okay. Therefore, I put the amendment in front of you to a vote. All those in favour? Carried 7-2. Thank you. Correct? Yep. Now I put forward item Amendment B. if you wish to put your amendment B forward.
Yes, and again, this is very administrative, but this is quite an important point, I think. That the minutes need to reflect what happens on the night. And if you think this one through, I think there'll be a concentrated effort, a redoubling of efforts to provide accurate answers, but caution those answers, because if figures are involved or something on the fly gets wrong, understandably our leadership doesn't want it to come back to bite them. Perfectly understandable, which encourages the people in the community to author their questions ahead of time, as we've seen tonight, and public question time went much better. So that is one of the strong implications of this important point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Manish. Do I have a seconder? Second to Councillor Ryan. Is there any opposition? If there being no opposition, I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Right, now I'll return to the... So we've got the two amendments. So the amendment now comes to the motion. So I'll put that motion forward as seen before you. So a speaker for? Speaker against? Councillor Cox, you reserved your right. Do you wish to speak?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sure, thank you. Your right to reboot? No. Therefore, I put the motion. All those in favour? And the motion is carried 7-2. Thank you. Now move on to item 8.2. The minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 29th of January 2025 to be confirmed as true and correct record. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor McNeish, seconded Councillor Kennedy. Is there any opposition? Being no opposition, I put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried 9-0. Thank you. Now move on to item 10.2, the Council Policy Review Regulation of Holiday Homes. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Ryan. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Love. Is there any opposition? Being no opposition, I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Item 10.1, the Council Policy Review Community Engagement. This has been pulled by Councillor Andrew McNeish. This is page 13 of the agenda. We can just have those additions. Oh, sorry. Yep. So because it's a committee recommendation, the committee recommendation could go first. Should it lapse, then Councillor Andrew McNeish will go forward. Do I have a mover for this motion? I have no mover, therefore it lapses. I now move on to the alternate recommendation from Councillor Andrew McNeish. Do you wish to put your alternate, please?
Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Love. Is there any opposition? Being no opposition, I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Thank you. I'll now move on to item 10.3, the committee recommendation. Councillor Ryan?
I'd like to move with an amendment, if I may.
Yeah, sure. So I just need a second.
Can I ask a question beforehand?
You may do.
Can somebody find the actual resolution number that I'm talking about?
Sorry, I did send that to you, but perhaps it hasn't come through yet. The resolution number is, C2412-365.
Okay. So firstly, I'll move and second this, if I may. So do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Lee. Did you move? Sorry, I thought you'd moved this motion. Okay.
The committee recommendations.
Yes.
I believe Councillor might be looking at.
Yes, yeah, I understand that. Sorry, I thought you'd moved when your hand went up. Okay, I will return to this. Item 10.3, do I have a mover for the committee recommendation? Moved Councillor Lee. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Ryan. Councillor Lee, would you wish to put your motion?
As written, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ryan?
Yes, but I'd like to move an amendment that a notation or similar be attached to the document at the bottom. Is it 6.1 we said we would insert it?
Sure.
And the reason why is because I think in November, Councillor McNish raised an issue with the rails to trails, ensuring that rails to trails was kept in perpetuity and that anything we had in relation to the Wadandi track also related to rails to trails, and that it be documented in future with recognition of such of the pioneers and so on. And the reason why it's important to have that resolution is because councillors come and councillors go.
I'm only going to
Policies
stop you
come.
because we do need to talk. If you're putting forward this amendment, then we can debate the amendment, that's all.
Yep.
Because we're,
Okay.
yep. So your amendment is?
That resolution number is
Okay,
added.
so then we'll vote. Do I have a seconder for the amendment? Sorry.
Can we just draft, we're just going to draft the amendment.
Sure.
On the screen, just to
Sorry.
make sure it's
Sure.
We'll just let the governance catch up.
Councillor Ryan, can we just confirm that that is the amendment that you're moving?
That's fine.
That's
Okay.
correct? Okay, great.
Are you happy with that, Andrew? Yeah.
So I had a seconder for that. Do I have a seconder for the amendment? Councillor McNish. Is there any opposition? Being no opposition, I put that amendment up to vote. All those in favour? Are you... Too late. Are you voting for or against? Okay, 8-1. Carried 8-1, the amendment. Okay, so we're now return to the amended motion that is in front of you, being item 10.3. Is there a speaker against? Are there any speakers against? We'll give it a little bit of time. No speakers against. Is there a speaker for? Therefore, no speakers against. The right of reply? Yes, so there's no speakers against. Therefore, I put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That is carried 8-1. Thank you. We now move on to item 13.1. There is an alternate recommendation that has come in, but the first item... We have an alternate recommendation from the officers, which will be put forward first. Do I have a mover? Sorry, let me just get this up on the screen. I'll slow down in case any... Councillors, I have in front of us the alternate recommendation for item 13.1 with regards to the Busselton Jetty Caravan Park expressions of interest to lease. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor McNeish. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Craig. Is there any opposition? Being no opposition, I put the motion. All those in favour? The motion is carried 9-0. Thank you, councillors. Item 15.1, the Community Engagement Framework Review. This item has been pulled by Councillor McNeish. This is page 35 of your agenda item. Councillor McNeish, do you wish to put your motion?
It's written on the screen. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Lee. Is there any opposition? There is opposition from Councillor Love. Councillor McNeish, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Only that it was a very good document. That my changes are not conflicting with the intent of the document. I think the important one for mine was part K, to ensure that nothing in the document fettered the role and responsibility of the elected members as expressed in the Act and the regs. So I'll put that to you and thank you for the work that's gone into it.
Thank you. Do I have, the seconder? Do you wish to speak?
I'll reserve my right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any opposition? Councillor Love, you wish to speak?
I am actually quite supportive of Councillor McNish's changes in the wordsmithing and tightening up of the Community Engagement Framework Review. However, the only reason I am opposing it is because I'm foreshadowing combining his edits with the edits that I also wanted to combine just to further strengthen up that Community Engagement Review framework. And with my alternative, I did also have an additional point to get the councillors together so that we can do a workshopping to see how we're going to facilitate the council in the community section of our Community Engagement Framework Review, as it has been something that we have as a council discussed in chamber numerous times. However, I do believe it would be of benefit to actually sit down all together and come up with some sort of informal calendar of when we're going to go out into the community, whether that's Dunsborough, Busselton, how are we going to go out into that community? Is that going to be a market stall? Is it going to be catch up with the council with a coffee, and just try and have some sort of schedule of that so that we can then give that to our community and say, hey, we've taken on board your feedback that we need to engage with you better. And I'm very aware that a lot of the community would feel uncomfortable coming into the chambers and coming and directing and coming and sitting here. It's quite daunting for the community to come and present to us. So if we can help facilitate providing that community engagement in an informal way as well, I think that would be wonderful, and I tried to further strengthen that in my alternative.
Thank you, Councillor Love. Is there a speaker for? A speaker against? Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I concur with Councillor Love. I don't disagree with Councillor McNish's changes and his
words that he's changed with regard to the framework. I also agree that I would actually like to see his wording amalgamated with Councillor Love's changes. I think that will strengthen the framework. So that's the only reason I'm opposing Councillor McNish's changes, so that we can, if this motion is lost, we can incorporate both sets of changes with Councillor Love's. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker for? Speaker against? Councillor Lee.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Love, for your alternate. However, and thank you, Councillor McNish, for the work that you've put into this. But I think Part G actually already addresses the issue of how, when, and why we're addressing the community members, and addresses in there by saying that the council's goal is to ensure sufficient and genuine engagement with community members. So I think that has it covered in that particular segment. So thank you.
Councillor McNish, your right reply.
Thank you, Des. Yes, I wish to honour, in a rebuttal sense, respectfully, the points in the foreshadowed. I think that would be fair.
Well, anything that was brought up in debate, you can, so.
Which is the foreshadowed? I mean, I'm... Okay.
Well, if it was mentioned.
Well, I was only doing it to honour, but if the ruling is that I shan't, then I shan't.
Sure. If we're sticking to standing orders, then you have the right to rebut anything that was said in debate.
Which is the foreshadowed list.
The foreshadow wasn't spoken aloud, was it?
I don't know if during my standing orders can I make comments.
I think Councillor Love made a number of comments
I made a
with
personal
regards
statement that I have got an alternative, and I did make comment on the council in the community portion of my alternative, but I did not make any comments about any other
any
further
wording.
points.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm happy to then generally conclude in that I see my proposal doesn't have any, perhaps no onerous or no resourcing implications, whereas other things such as, workshops and things, yes. But let me see if there's anything else. And mine doesn't require any auditing either. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McNish. I appreciate your conservatism there. Therefore, I put the motion. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Against? 3. Carried 6-3. Thank you. Being no further items, the next ordinary council meeting will be on Wednesday, 26th of February 2024. I now declare the meeting closed at 6:35, and thank you for your attendance. Hmm?